Today is our special day because we're spicing things up. We're doing this a little bit more traditional vlogging style, but this is going to be a pre-production commentary / informative video on what happens when we create videos for you guys. Now, sometimes people say, well, why do you put more work into it? Well, I'm here today to tell you so much stinking work goes into these productions. Even for a 3-4 minute video, we oftentimes spend months and months making it happen. If you don't already know, I'm a big fan of Smash Brothers, big fan of Nintendo. Ultimate dream / goal, if I'm gonna do a brand deal, it's gonna be with brands that I love. Nintendo reached out to me. I already had a good relationship with them just because I've done several big kind of fan videos. I'll have a bunch of those pop out right now. Mario Kart in real life, Mario Parkour, Pokemon Parkour, so many parkour and Nintendo videos we've done in the past as fan projects. Not sponsored, hashtag not sponsored, but those were all fan projects. So I went into that knowing like, I just wanna let Nintendo know that I'm a big fan of their game. A lot of times people ask like, how do I get brand deals? First, show the brands that you're genuinely excited about it. Nintendo saw that. That goes a long way. So they're like, hey, we have this opportunity, Devin. Smash Brothers. They contacted me, reached out, and I was like, actually, I've been wanting to do this concept for so long. And I sent them that exact day that they asked if I was interested, I sent them a full PDF of all my storyboards of how I would execute this project. I made these several years ago. Like, that's how passionate I was about it. Now, we didn't pull off exactly what was in the storyboards for our video, but they could see, first off, I was already passionate about it. I was already very planned out, well thought out, and I could send them exactly how I envisioned it. You always know with these brands, they're actually reaching out to not just 1 or 2 influencers. They're usually reaching out to multiple influencers and getting their pitches. Right away, I got back to them, and I had everything super planned out. So anyone of the higher ups, as far as asking or requesting for some money, they could see that exactly how that money was going to be spent. For me, a big thing was I wanted it to be as real and as practical as possible. We're not VFX guys, we leave that to other channels that just kind of kill the game with that. Corridor Digital comes to mind because they're one of my favorite channels. Now, to pull off a project like this, it was gonna take a ton of pre-production. Basically, it's all the groundwork. It's setting up the world, it's setting up the set, like what's going to happen to make this project when you actually come time to film it. The more pre-production you can spend, the less time you're gonna spend on set trying to figure things out. And it's gonna actually save you more money on set, because on set we're having 30 people on set, so I'm paying for 30 people. Right now for pre-production, it's usually me and a couple other people involved, so I'm only paying for those time or my own time. One of the first things is I had to determine a set. I went through all the different levels from the new Smash Bros. Game that was coming out, Smash Brothers Ultimate, and I decided like these ones are gonna be the best ones we could pull off practically. So we ended up going for this level. And then it became this right here, and that's the actual practical set. And once we decided the set, then the big thing was how are we gonna choreograph all this stuff? One of my friends, Corbett McAllister, he's also a big fan of Smash Brothers. He's actually come to my office here. We met together and we're like, how can we pull this off? What's gonna be the best characters? Because I didn't want the characters to look cheesy. Like if we're gonna recreate a Pikachu, someone in a Pikachu costume, it's not gonna look good compared to someone like Little Mac. And then the other big thing is what characters are we going to use? On my original pitch deck, one of the main characters I had was Pit, but I knew I couldn't pull off his wings good enough, so I actually scratched him out. So these are the 4 characters I ended up settling with, just because I knew we could pull them off realistically, practically, and we could pull it off in the time that we were given. Now, once the concept was approved by Nintendo, I essentially sent them 20 pages of very detailed on how I was gonna execute this project. So on here, I have a detail of exactly the synopsis of the project, the locations that we were gonna use, the cast that we are going to use, and then I took the world from the game, and then I photoshopped the 4 main characters, and I started blocking through exactly where each person was gonna be at all times. If there was a wire work involved, if there was a prop involved, I wrote specific notes. Like right here, you'll see I have in blue, Mac double jump, where he's double jumping from, just so when it came time to shoot, I was as organized as possible. But these are all things I photoshopped, and we're talking not just like a couple pages, we're talking 20 pages. I spent about a week working on this non-stop, mostly at like weird hours of the night and day, just to get it done. And also too, like each character has certain moves, and I know the fans are hardcore about that, so I wanted to make sure we were as true to the game as possible. For example, Princess Peach, she has a butt hit, it's like a butt kick, but a butt hit. I want to make sure it looked as close to the game as possible. Ideas don't always make the cut. For example, we had one big scene with Annette where I had Lacey make the props for that. And when it came time to actually shoot, I actually had to cut that. Just because I had these storyboards super organized, things are always changing. We always have to adapt to it no matter what. And I had a list of the items as well, how the items were gonna be used and the moves we were gonna be pulling off. Anyone on the cast or crew or people at Nintendo or the agency, we sent this all to them so they knew exactly what was going to happen and made it so there was as little surprises as possible. Let's talk a minute about the blocking of it, because that's what I want a big part of this to focus, because if you think about, like, you have 4 people fighting, every shot is gonna be perfectly planned in order for it to work and make sense, because you have 4 people jumping around the screen. So during this scene, where are these other 2 people? Where are these other 3 people? Someone's jumping off screen here. What's going on over here? So all that had to be perfectly planned out. Now, before I even got to the storyboards, like, it took me a while to process this. This was the hardest blocking of any project I've ever done. Like, nothing even comes close to this for me personally. So before I even jumped to the storyboards, as I was like, I'm gonna need to block this out physically, because I'm someone that doesn't, just writing it alone doesn't do it for me. I need to actually see it. So I built a 3D model of it with Legos. I knew as far as set design goes that we were gonna have several different layers. We were gonna have the sky, as you see right here. Then we were gonna have kind of the mountain right here. Then we were gonna have this kind of mountain range right here, a little smaller one. And then the 2 platforms they would be standing on. You can see it right here. Because I have a lot of Legos. It wasn't like I just showed up at Target and bought a bunch of Legos. I had a bunch of Legos, so that's what I was going off of. I have several Lego Ninjago sets. So I took those characters and I made sure they looked like the characters we were casting as. So right here, Princess Peach, she always has an umbrella. Link, he's always in green. So I had him in green right there. Little Mac always has his hat on backwards, so I had him right here. Actually the villager, sorry. And Little Mac has a wild crazy hair, so he's right here. Each scene I would block out first. So I was setting this down and I was going through, okay, I'm gonna have this character jump up here. This character is going to punch this character. And then as that's happening, these 2 characters are gonna jump up here. Peach is gonna be up in the air and then she's gonna fly down to this area. And then I would write that all out on an outline. Once I wrote down everything, me and Corbett sat through, we talked through everything, and then he was the stunt coordinator. Then we blocked through it again to make sure it would actually play out well on camera. Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. Because a lot of times it was like, okay, there's gonna be a cable pull going this way. Let's set up the next shot so we can be efficient. So there's another cable pull this way, because if you keep on jumping back and forth, it just doubles and triples the time that you're spending. This was a huge part for me to make sure we could run as smoothly as possible. Now it looks like, oh, you're just playing with Legos. I promise you, it wasn't just that. So as far as outlining, like, there's not one way to eat a Reese's peanut butter cup. There's not one way to make a movie. Whatever works for you, do it. For me, I'm a very visual person. I don't see numbers, and writing doesn't do it for me. I need to physically see, like, storyboards. I need to physically see something like Legos where I can actually block it out and rehearse it so I know exactly what I'm going to get. That is essentially the main pre-production as far as a director, what I was dealing with. There was a lot more going on. For example, once I told Carter, our producer, what I wanted as far as the set goes, then he had to go out and find someone that could actually make a set that big and make it look that legit, which they're not a dime a dozen. But the other big thing is, like, how do you find a warehouse that's that big to make it happen? So that was other kind of the big thing. Is originally we had another location, and we realized to pull off what we wanted to wasn't going to be big enough, so we had to spice things up, and last minute, within like 2 weeks of filming, we found the perfect warehouse, which worked out perfect. The ceilings were super high, the walls were super long, so it was definitely very efficient, and without that, it wouldn't have turned out to what it was. That is exactly what happened as far as pre-production goes. For me, a big deal for something like this is I knew that Mr. Sakurai, the director of Smash Brothers Ultimate and all the Smash Brothers series, I knew that he was approving and signing off on the concepts. So for me, it was like, I want to go all out because I know someone that I admire, super respect their work, is going to see this. Our Smash Brothers video, it didn't get millions and millions of views, but it's something I'm really proud of because so many people came together, they put their hearts into this, and the people that were a part of this, for the most part, were massive fans of the game. So there you have it. That is a pre-production inside look on what goes on for our videos on YouTube. Hopefully this can make you guys better filmmakers, and hopefully we can learn from you guys as well, because it's definitely a give and take, and share as much information as you can because there's so much to learn from everybody. Learn from our mistakes. That's what I'm saying. There you have it. Thanks for watching. Over and out.